When I was into weightlifting and bodybuilding, I gained over 40 pounds of nothing but muscle in just 5 years. I transitioned over to calisthenics over the course of 1 year. I went from 10 bodyweight pull ups, maybe 15 bodyweight dips, all the way up to 50 kilos for 4 reps unweighted pull ups, 50 kilos for 10 reps plus unweighted dips. I went from knowing absolutely zero skills to learning no dip muscle ups, to learning one arm pull ups, to having a front lever, to also being able to do over 5 handstand push-ups in a row and almost 50 in one session. I've made a pretty decent bit of progress, and I want to attribute a lot of that and a lot of those strength gains to the previous years of hypertrophy training that I did. Now, I didn't do this perfectly for calisthenics at all. I wasn't planning on being a calisthenics athlete, whatever you want to call it. But what I do want to share with you is why you should bulk for calisthenics, how to properly do that, and how it applies to the actual skills that you're doing and how it applies to the strength. Again, if you don't know me, my name is Brandon. First link in the description, you can join a community of other calisthenic athletes. You have a bunch of free resources for me if this video really helps you. There's a bunch of free stuff, a couple courses on how to learn skills and how to go from 0 to 15 plus pull-ups and 0 to 20 dips and how to add weight onto there. There's a huge roadmap for you. I'm really excited to be able to release it and give that to you for completely free. If this helps you and you have the attention span to actually go down after this video and watch it, or go down to the link, then that would be absolutely fantastic. I hope to see you in there. So, why is it that you actually need to bulk for calisthenics? People always talk about relative strength and like pound for pound strength. What does it all mean? Yes, pound for pound strength is super important. In the majority of cases, it is more difficult for a heavier person to do skills versus a lighter person. But what people don't tell you is when it comes to skill training, when it comes to dynamic skills specifically, like muscle ups, like handstand push ups, like 90-degree handstand push ups, like one arm pull ups, muscle translates to strength very, very effectively. What that means is the more muscle you put on, the stronger you can get while staying lean. 5 pounds of muscle can contribute to quite literally, in some cases, like 30 added pounds to your lifts. The amount is a complete multiplicative of the amount that you add based on muscle to the amount of weight that you can then add afterwards. The thing is, you don't want to do any super bulks. If you weigh, let's say you weigh 80 kg right now, you don't want to bulk up to 100 kg when 80 kg is kind of close to your limit, like when you can stay fairly lean. You don't want to do that. The reason is because you're going past your genetic set point. What happens is when people train, when they get into weightlifting, when they get into training and dieting and all that kind of stuff, when you clean up your diet, when you sleep well, and when you train hard, what happens is after around 1 or 2 years, you will get to a point to where you're at your genetic set point. That's basically where your body kind of wants to stay. You're not focusing on eating more than you need. You're not focusing on losing more than you have to. You're just training very hard. You're focusing on getting stronger or doing some hypertrophy training, all of that kind of stuff, but you're staying in one spot. I have been the same weight for 3 years and I've only gotten leaner. So recomping is a thing, especially for calisthenics. You just want to maintain your weight in most cases and then lower. If you're already fat, or I should say not lean, if that's a political correct statement. If you're already heavy, if you're already fat, if you already got a bit of a gut, what you should do is you should maintain your weight unless you're like significantly morbidly obese. So like if you're above 20%, anything from like 12 to 15 or 12 to 20%, you would just maintain. But anything past that, then you would actually have to cut down a little bit, which is a little unfortunate because that's going to mess with your strength gains. But so is being really heavy in calisthenics with a bunch of dead weight when it comes to having a ton of fat on you. Strength is super, super important. For static skills as well, it's really important because when you do your strength training, that's also going to train your tendons. So when you're doing your weighted pull-ups and your weighted dips, that's going to affect how strong your tendons are. That's going to affect how stiff they are. And it doesn't apply one-to-one. Planche especially is super, super niched with the systems of your body that it uses. So that basically means that you're not going to be able to do a planche just from doing weighted pull-ups and weighted dips. You're going to have to actually train planche. But there are people, me included, who don't really train front lever ever, who are able to front lever because we're so strong in proportion to our body weight. I'm able to rep 50 kg for multiple reps, able to do a few reps on one arm pull-ups here and there, and I only weigh 63 kilos. So, because of that pound for pound strength, which is only available to me because of the weight that I put on, I'm able to do that. And I'm able to hold 4 or 5 second front lever with pretty decent form. Like I am fairly straight. Like I'm not like piked up or anything. My hips aren't sagging, all that kind of stuff. Like I am fairly straight. That's going to apply really well if you're strong. Next thing, muscle doesn't directly improve progress. And I already kind of talked about this, but I kind of ranted on for a little bit too long. Muscle doesn't directly increase the amount of progress you make after the 1 to 2 year mark. So like I said, you have your natural kind of baseline where your body kind of wants to sit after doing the first initial years of weight training, kind of when your newbie gains are done, when you stop gaining weight, even though you're kind of eating the same and you're not really eating in a surplus. You just kind of gain weight just for the sake of gaining weight. Maybe you're going through puberty, maybe just the stimulus is so strong and you're recomping a little bit, and maybe since your body does want to hold on to a little bit more food, a little bit more water weight because of all the new muscle you have, you actually raise in weight even though you're eating the same. It doesn't really help you past that point. And it's a strange phenomenon because I've talked and I've listened to a bunch of coaches speak about this, and nobody really knows why. I'll be completely honest with you. My theory is because in the beginning stage, when you first gain the muscle, you gain neuroadaptations very quickly. So your body learns how to use that muscle extremely fast. When you get more advanced, it's slower. And when you're gaining muscle, the rate is kind of like more even with the neuroadaptation, where how efficiently your body can use that muscle versus the muscle that you actually have. It's kind of slow. When you're a beginner, the muscle shoots up really quickly, but so does the neuroadaptation. That's why methods like the 2-set method work very well, like the Ian Barsigal method for beginners, is because they're able to put on a ton of muscle with it, but also because it's so intense, they're able to make neuroadaptations very, very quickly, and that's going to apply to their strength training. Third thing of why you need a bulk, you just look cooler. Like, we've all seen those twigs who can do the planche, who can do the one arm handstand, who can do the clean muscle ups, all that kind of stuff. But you look so much cooler. That's why Ian Barsigal is so famous. That's why Vitaly Fishhook is so famous. That's not really why Zlat's so famous, because he's more street lifting. He doesn't do skills. But that's why all of these guys are so famous, is because they're big. They're really big. Vitaly is like 102 kilos now. The reason why these people, these athletes, are so popular with hundreds of thousands of followers isn't because their skills are necessarily impressive. Granted, they are. But if they were short, it wouldn't be that impressive. The reason why it's so impressive is just because they're big. And you can't really change your height, but you can change how much you weigh. And it's going to make your training even more effective up to a certain point if you can gain some weight. So, now that we got into that, how do you actually bulk when doing calisthenics? First thing, lean bulk, no dirty bulks, no, I think it's like called GOMAD or whatever, gallon of milk a day. That's the most retarded thing that you can be doing for your progress, especially when on calisthenics. What you're going to be doing is you're going to find out what you normally eat in a day, and you can track this or you cannot. Both ways work. I've tried both, and honestly, I kind of hate tracking my food, so I don't do it, but it works for some people. Me personally, it's just a hassle and I hate it, and I kind of know how much I'm eating anyway just because I've been doing it so long. But you can go down either route. Let's say you are tracking it just for the sake of simplicity. If you aren't tracking it, then just eat a little bit more than you normally would. If you kind of eat the same thing every day, then just instead of taking 2 pieces of toast in the morning, take 4 or take 3. Instead of doing 3 eggs, do 4. Instead of doing 4 eggs, do 5. That kind of thing. Just each meal add a little bit extra and you'll be within that range, no problem. If you are tracking it, 200 to 300 calories added per day above your maintenance. There's a ton of calculators. There's a ton of resources where you can see like what your maintenance calories are, how much you need in a day to maintain your weight. That's basically the amount of food you eat. Calories or the energy source that your body uses to distribute everything across your body. And depending on the food, some more calorie dense, some are not, whatever. That's why cake makes you fat when it's like this big of a portion versus like, I don't know, a piece of cauliflower, which is like this big, but it's like a tenth of the calories because it's far less calorie dense. Anyways, that's a side point. When doing calisthenics, you're going to prioritize proteins and carbs. You're not really going to prioritize fats, because fat, when it gets translated into what your body actually uses it for, It does. It gets translated into fat. And we're not talking about like visceral fat, or we're not talking about the bad stuff that actually like gives you that gut sensation. We're not talking about that. It's actually like a very healthy kind of fat, but it's still dead weight. That's not really going to help us with our progress. What you should do is you should eat anywhere between 0.4 to 0.6 grams of fat per pound of body weight if you are European. And I keep switching between pounds and kilos. I'm American and I'm trying to serve a European audience because that's most of the people who watch me. You can translate it, multiply it by 2.2. It's not very difficult. 0.4 to 0.6 grams of fat per pound of body weight. If you want to take how much you weigh in kilos, multiply that by 2.2 and then divide it the same across. That's all you're going to do. Then you'll have the amount of fat that you need in a day. For most people, it's in between like 40 and 60 grams, depending on the high range, or sorry, I got that wrong. It's in between, I believe, 40 and 80, I think, is on average, depending on body weight and sex and all that kind of stuff. You're going to keep the fats low because we're just supporting our hormones. We're just keeping ourselves healthy because fats are a very, very healthy thing to eat. Don't cut them out completely. I forget which diet it was that completely cuts away fat, but those people are like some of the most unhealthy people on the planet. Don't do that. That's so stupid. You don't want to be cutting out any massive macronutrients. Carnivore is retarded. Veganism is less retarded, but if you're eating like vegan junk food or whatever, it's still retarded. All these fad diets are completely stupid. You want to be eating a well-balanced diet. You want to be eating good food, healthy food, protein, carbs, fats, all of it. I'm telling you how much to eat here. Again, back to prioritizing proteins and carbs. You're going to be eating 0.7 to 0.1 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Everybody says, and I don't know if you say this in Europe because I am American, but everybody says here in the States, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. You don't need that much. There's been numerous studies that say that's probably not required. There's some instances where it could be preferable, but there's other instances where too much protein can cause problems, and there's all these issues that could happen, and it doesn't really make a difference. Sometimes it does, but it really doesn't. Who knows? 0.7 to 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight is the amount you want to be eating. Next thing. Carbs. You're going to be eating as many carbs as you can possibly take and fit within your calorie limit. So you're going to be eating the amount of protein I just said, 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. And for fats, 0.4 to 0.6 grams per pound of body weight. Make sure you're writing this down because you're not going to remember this off the top of your head. The rest you're going to put into carbs. This is going to allow you to recover better. This is going to allow you to perform better. This is going to allow you to build more muscle because carbs and proteins are the things that make up your muscles. They kind of combine in a strange way in order to actually make your muscles. Like protein is mostly, or your muscles are mostly protein, but carbs do play a huge role in like getting the blood vessels in there and storing the water that's in there. Like if I had no water in my bicep right now, it would look like this. If I had water in it, it would look like this. It makes no difference on camera, but I swear I'm more jacked than that. Jeez, I have like a vein right here. Gosh, I'm looking at myself. You think I'm looking at you, but I'm looking at me because it's easier to maintain eye contact with a person than with a camera. I'm a genius. Anyways, again, this is just for health. You're an athlete. What are you going to eat pre-workout? My mouse is not working. What are you going to eat pre-workout versus post-workout? These are the next two things. Pre-workout, you can either eat nothing. Philip Soley is a huge proponent of this, and I kind of agree with this statement when it comes to purely calisthenics. You don't want to feel heavy. You don't want to be eating protein that's going to leave you full. You don't want to be eating fats that are going to make you feel slow and a little bit sluggish. You don't want to eat fats ever before pre-workout. The only time you eat fats is if your session is going to last longer than an hour and a half, 2 hours, something along those lines. And even then you can sometimes get away with it if you just have like some type of carb or sugar in the middle of a workout. Your goal is just to not be hungry. If you are going to eat only carbs. I personally will either eat 1 banana, I'll eat like a small thing of rice, like my mom gets little brown rice packets that I eat. It has a little bit of fat in there, but it's not a huge deal because it's a very, very small amount. But you want to be eating carbs if you are going to be eating anything. Next thing. Protein for weight training is a very good thing to eat before the workout because it's going to start the protein synthesis process. It's going to start your body from when you go to sleep. When you go to sleep, your body essentially stops building muscle essentially after that period. So during sleep, like it'll do this thing, you're getting recovered or whatever, but at some point it'll just stop because it doesn't really need to anymore. Why does it need to? That adaptation's already made. If you want to restart that process, get some protein in, your body has enough, everything's cool. A cheat code to this that I heard about is taking casein protein at night, which is like a slower digesting protein. So you actually will keep it'll be less of a spike, but what will happen is you'll keep the protein synthesis process going fairly easily. But yes, pre-workout, you're going to be eating either only carbs or nothing, but your main goal is to not be hungry. So if you can get away with training in the morning, with training afternoon, still not eating, and you can get away with not eating anything and you're not hungry, sick, dope, awesome for you. If you have a really hard session coming up and you need to be super prepared for it and you're a little bit hungry, a little bit of carbs might be fine. Good in most cases. If your session's going to be a long session and it's going to be longer than an hour and a half, get some fats in there, get some nuts, get some peanut butter, get a little bit of eggs going in the mix. That's when you could eat some protein, because eggs honestly aren't a very good protein source. Like if you think about it, they don't have a ton. They're mostly a fat source. Like I don't know why people don't talk about this. Obviously it has protein, but like so do vegetables. Like nobody's like, I need to get my veggies in. Anyways, that's a separate point. Post workout, what are you going to do after the workout? What can you even do intra workout, which is like during the actual workout? I'm going to be explaining. During the workout, either eat nothing, drink nothing, just water, get some salt packets in there. So you would get like a Gatorade, or there's another company that's called Element. It's called LMNT, I believe. And it's like little flavored salt packets you can put in your water during the gym. That's really good because when you sweat out a lot of salt and it messes with your electrolyte balance. And it's just super healthy to have a good amount of salt in your system after weight training. Next thing, after mid-workout, so again you would have like a sugary drink, or like that's why powerlifters eat candy in the middle of their workout, because it's fast digesting, they get the energy super quickly. After workout, you're going to eat basically whatever you want whenever you can fit it in. So you can eat carbs and proteins preferably right after, but after that next meal it doesn't really matter. So an ideal day would look like you eat either nothing in the morning, maybe a little bit of carbs if you struggle with eating a lot. I've been there. We've all been there. I had to gain 40 pounds for Christ's sake. I've tried shoving more food in my face. I really have. This is the biggest I get. Anyways, in the morning, either eat nothing, maybe like a little bit of carbs, nothing too crazy, like 50, 100 grams more than enough for the morning for most people. You go through, you do your work out hard. If it's longer than an hour and a half, maybe you get some fat in the morning. So like you eat some peanuts or some pistachios or walnuts or whatever. You continue on, you finish your workout, you go back home, you go back to your dining place, whatever. You have protein and carbs, so that's preferable. So you only would have the two mainly. You can do a little bit of fat this meal, but it's better just to do the two because you want to not mess with your digestion by eating too much, and you want to mostly be getting protein and carb in because that's what's going to refuel you and help you recover better for next session the next day. Then later in the day, you can eat basically the rest of your fats, rest of your carbs, rest of your protein if you still have it. Doesn't really matter after that point. So that has been everything. If you found this even remotely helpful, then join my Discord, link in description. If you're into calisthenics, if you're not, then why are you even watching to this point? All I've been talking about is calisthenics, you weirdo. You're strange. Join the Discord, nerds. I will see you. Cheers.